All right, okay. Right, so as I said, welcome to this wonderful world of micro-credentials. This is going to be a very short and sweet thing because it's really just to open the conversation and see if it's somewhere we want to go within our environment as PD. So this is really talking about acknowledging the PD we do. And you can take this back into your staff rooms because it can be based around this can be rolled out to some of the meaningful and less than meaningful PD we often do. But hopefully the stuff that we all do here within this online world is very valuable. That's what we try for anyway. So we're acknowledging it, or do these little virtual badges that we give our kids on Education Perfect and things, should we be getting them as well because they're cute? Mm-hmm. So bit of a background, micro-credentials were something which were sort of out there in a lot of the online Coursera and things like that, gave you these interesting but academically somewhat worthless things for many years. But now NZQA have decided that micro-credentialing is going to become a key part of primarily the vocational educational part, but it's open now to our environment, both for our students and for us. I'm not really going to focus too much on the students and what the potentials are in the future, although they're pretty huge. But basically, this slide really gives us a whole idea about how these things can be worked to develop programs that give us something anyway. So I'm not going to, there are lots of links on this. I'm going to open a few. I'm not going to open all of them, but you have access to this slideshow. Okay, so formal, it's primarily tertiary and NZQA linked. It's really lined up to 40 credits. A lot of these have been designed around our vocational education area in schools. And as we're seeing, so things, for example, tourism, because it's going into the achievement standards from unit standards. Currently it's workbooks. I can see that this will probably end up being the way that the organizations that run this through will go for it. So there's a section here which I'll try and open. Not guaranteeing it's going to work. Oh, here we go. It did work. So again, for you guys to have a look. Okay. I'm not going to do that then because I was. I'm only sharing the app, so let's move that over. This is not going to work. Okay, so I will change it when I come to one I need to. That link takes us into micro-credentials. It's an overall overview by the NZQA. It says, taking this down a bit. We've really got used to, over the last couple of years, especially for derived grade, for our students, in looking at providing evidence rather than actual assessments in many cases. And again, this is just a natural progression for that. So who are micro-credentials aimed at? So they're really aimed at people who want to upskill or learn a specific skill, but you don't want to go and do, as I did many years ago, and do my master's, or as Catherine's done with her most recent masters, or any of us around this table, or any of you in cyber world doing these. But this one, you can just pick and choose things. You can work with up and coming technology. So basically you can be taking a course with somebody from anywhere on the planet, and NASA have got their will anywhere on some other planet. You can change careers without taking time off from your current job to train. So therefore you can plan for the job that you're going to sneak out of teaching to do. You can develop your specialized skills that employers are looking for. which is really cool. If a job comes up, micro-credentials, some of these can be really quick. And one of the things I was thinking is when a job advert comes up, you look at what they're needing and you do a quick micro-credential to make sure you fit the job. Whether that's feasible, but you get credit for skills you've already developed in the job. This is interesting. Open badges, they're created, and this is something that we can do as a group, whether it's the networks as they are, or whether it's us as Kōtuitui doing the PD we do. We can provide open badges, which is something, and I'll show you one in a minute, that you can actually have sitting on your CV, or confirmation when you went to some form of PD. So anybody who went to ULearn, the online ULearn, theoretically you got a badge that told you you'd did it. Again, you don't need to know all about this sort of stuff. There is a Mozilla set it up originally, but there's now a platform where we can actually go into and set this all up. So this is a badge. So this would have been the micro-credential for effective mentoring practice, which again, I'm not going to open these just now. You can open them in your own time. But for example, Wellington Uni have got a whole series of micro-credentials, and quite a few of them based around education. This effective mentoring one I used as part of our upskilling myself because I was working with PRTs. And it was really useful, and the benefit I had was I was working with PRTs at the time, and so I was able to try out some of the things in this micro-credential. Theoretically, I could use this towards another qualification because it's a university-based one, but I'm not intending to do that. I'm doing something else instead. So you can open here. So this is a list of their courses. This is the course template for this one. It is co-funded by PPTA, so you can apply for it through that, and it's mostly funded through that. And then this is my badge, but again, I'm not going to open that because it means I've got to go back and forward the screens. Until I've prepared for this really well, based on the earlier conversation that we had about preparation and using the cards to do stuff. If I'd done that, I would have prepared for this a bit better. This is, for example, I am going to do this course, which is, so Lucia, who presented to us, she's the course coordinator for that. It's just pure fluke that was the case. But Massey are doing this postgraduate diploma in education, all done online, and it's in the digital education space. So I'll do it while I'm working next year. So the decision is whether from PD you want simple badges, you want formal courses, whether we have to look at partnerships with the likes of Massey or Vic or Auckland or whoever, they're all doing these. Should every bit of PLD that we offer, as Kōtuitui, should we be offering attendance badges or virtual attendance badges? And possibly, if that's the case, should we be looking at, within our group, should we be looking at a sort of qualifications group that sort of look at how we can develop these things to help you and ourselves to develop our skills? And then finally, these are a whole series of links for those of you that are very geeky or very interested in what's going on around the world. Again, I'm not going to open them because that's a bit silly, but this one's got a comprehensive guide to micro-credentials in New Zealand. I wouldn't say it's comprehensive, but it says it is. The Tertiary Education Authority have got a whole series of things on micro-credentials, NZQA. University of Auckland have got them through their COIA Centre. University of Canterbury, Auckland, NZSE, this is some of the rural ones. you can look at some of them. You can go and study at Harvard or MIT or anything like that through the micro-credentials they've got at edX. MOOC, many of us have maybe looked at MOOCs with regards to platforms that have been used before, but there's a whole lot of courses in there. And then there's a whole series of micro-credentials best practice setting up. This, for those of you who are developing new courses in schools to sort of tie in with things like this, that is the potential for you to develop courses which include online, just your normal course, but you can eventually, and this is I think where the NZQA are coming from, is you'd be able to put some micro-credentials from other providers into your qualification for your students. So again, there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of things that we can do. I'm sorry this wasn't the most interactive presentation, but I'm sure, yeah, there will be questions. I'm not the font of all knowledge, but I'm going to stop the share now.
Leave your audio on.
Okay.
One of Linda's audio is working.
Right.
I have some questions around badging. How do you know that you just can't take something whether you did it or not? You know, go and lift a badge offline and put it on your blog site. How do they, how can they clearly be identified as something you actually do?
Yep, I am going to go back and I will actually open my badge. And I'll show you.
It's on the screen again.
Yeah, now I'll be able to do it. You'll be able to see that I formally passed this micro-credentialed course. Wasn't that difficult, but anyway. Now, so I will now go back to sharing my screen. He says, opening the wrong sorting thing. I think I'd be quite good at this by now. Right. Share this. Right. So this is my badge. This comes to me at the end. So it was through University of Wellington. It tells me everything that the criteria that I had to go, that I'd completed 50 hours of learning. Did I? Hell. But anyway, I'd completed 50 hours of learning, including a workshop, webinars, and self-paced online learning. So you have to get the feedback. There has to be some sort of setup there. If you're doing it at this level, it says it's a level 8 and it's worth 5 credits at level 8. So when you look at doing another university course, you can go, hey, I've already got 5 credits towards it.
But that's a micro-credential.
That's right. This is a micro, but this is the reason I wanted to open it.
Yeah.
Is here. It was verified but so you know that my badge was verified. So you basically give this, it was a certificate of achievement. And this system, which we could be operating, shows that I actually was given that badge rather than me just sticking a sort of pretty version of that on my CV. So I've got evidence to prove it.
It's almost like, I mean, I feel like whether we do it for Kōtuitui and have our own verification system, or
Can I just double check? Can people hear Jen talking?
No,
sorry. I was just saying.
Realize my relevance is lacking.
No,
just go unmute.
Unmute.
I was just wondering whether this is, whether when you do it as an organisation, then you run the verification side of it, or whether, it's just, whether teachers need to use something like LinkedIn more, because you have your own sort of, it's like an online resume that can link out to different verifications. It's almost kind of two quite separate things, whether you set up a verifying organisation, or we just get into the habit of actually sharing what we've done respectively and what we're doing amongst our own organisation. So you've got something that's visible, and you can be like, oh, if I wanted to talk to someone about gifted and talented, I can sort of go through our network and see that this person has so many areas of expertise on it.
That's one way of. Can you hear me while I'm speaking at my teacher voice?
That's one way of doing it, to be able to share openly, but also having in your own sort of being on a qualifications pathway, because what Grant's talking about there is you're actually gaining credits, and if you get enough credits, then you can get a postgrad or a graduate diploma or something like that. Does it all add up to
It
something?
can. It just depends. Some of them have got no intrinsic value other than proving you attended something. So, for example, it's normal PD, and the fact that you attended that really boring session on PD4L that you've heard 14 times. Well, the fact that you're able to then go to your principal and say, well, actually, I attended this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it again. I'm going to come for a cup of coffee. It can be that simple as that, because it's very low cost in these things, or it can be building up through a partner, which is one of the reasons I talked about partners. If we wanted to do this, and there was a demand from the teachers within our networks to do this, it would be a case of saying, well, actually, maybe we'll partner up with one of the institutions that's already doing it, and co-construct something with them. But there'd obviously there'd then be costs involved in it, whereas we can do it quite simply just by paying an annual subscription to Badger and us set up. This is what this one is. It's not worth X number of points. It's just you've got a badge to say you've completed that PD. So this is really all of today is to open the conversation and see, if we have people are interested in it, then we can start to research it in detail. If it's something that is of no interest to people, then it's not worth doing too much. But yeah.
I was just wondering if,
Sorry. I was just wondering if, so for example, to make sure I'm getting it right. So say if we did a PRD or a couple PRDs on Te Reo Māori for teachers, then we could use those PLDs to get get a certificate or badge that gets like a certificate or whatever at the end.
Yeah,
It could be like that.
It'd be informal recognition of learning because we wouldn't have access to NZQA. That's the only thing. So it wouldn't appear on the record of learning unless we partnered with an institution. If we were to be able to do things in an accredited version through NZQA, we would have to become a provider and through the NZQA thing, and I'm not sure how you could actually do that as a network of expertise.
It didn't actually see it. I looked in basically it didn't actually look that difficult. It is NZQA, so we know that it will be difficult in many other ways, but the basic principle of what you're saying is, yes, it would do very well for some of those, say, short courses that just to raise people's either linguistic or cultural competencies or things like that, that would sort of come into it, and then it could be that then the partnerships would have to be with an existing education establishment, such as one of the universities or a training organization or something. But a lot of these are already there, but it's maybe the case of we would have a better, we could get them structured to suit our requirements rather than, because we all know what it's like to sit down. Some external organization has been paid a whole pile of money to bring us in some tedious PD that actually doesn't meet. Whereas if a group of 6 of us were doing this one, a group of 6 were doing something interested them, the staff room wouldn't, you wouldn't be fighting not to go.
And you could probably just focus into Te Reo Māori just for teachers, like specifically teaching online Te Reo Māori.
Yeah, exactly. And there are courses out there that I'm sure some of the providers would tailor for us to give, but they'd tie into, so it would be a Kōtuitui qualification, but done with them, you'd be doing it through that. So it'd be
Focused
focused
for
for
online
online
teaching.
Yeah.
teachers.
Okay.
I think it's important to recognise teacher learning because I think there's so much of it that goes unrecognised. And sure, we have our professional growth cycles and our own personal goals, and we might discuss them as part of those professional conversations. But to have actually that recognition, your own sort of little portfolio, yeah, that'd be good. I think. I'm not sure. What do people out there in internet land think?
Oh, okay.
I think the other areas, oh God, do that.
One at a time, I think.
I think the other professions do that quite well, don't you? Like when, I've always been asked, oh, what's on your LinkedIn? I was like, oh, teachers don't have LinkedIn. We just go to compulsory staff meetings over and over again every year. But like other places who do professional learning have that on their LinkedIn and they have that sort of digital resume. Whereas I think usually most teachers kind of miss the boat a little bit on that one, and that you don't have that record of professional learning unless you actively put it on your resume, which you forget all of the PLD things that you do. Even just first steps towards tracking that would be a good first step. But a Kōtuitui certificate around specifically online learning, that's something that would be relevant to not just us, but more and more teachers, who want to draw on some of those digital competencies as well. Mm.
Okay, so if we've got any further questions, my suggestion at this point is to suggest that people, if this is an interest, they just communicate back to us, really anybody in the group, but get straight back to me, and I'll do a bit more sort of detailed investigation and look at what the implications are for us, both cost and time and all that sort of stuff, and how we can resource it. And obviously it's something to take back into your staff rooms as well, and your teacher groups, and say, is this a useful thing that we could do as well? And Gillian, yeah, we definitely record our PD. Well, we don't really do appraisal docs anymore. They're sort of dying out, hopefully. It's supposed to be our professional growth cycle. And you can imagine as part of that, if we were to put in 6 badges a year, becomes our professional growth cycle. God, how easy would that make it for us? I'm obviously, none of this is designed. Obviously, secondary teachers and primary teachers are slightly different the way we approach it. But secondary teachers, it's just so mind-numbing going to some of these sessions that we aren't involved in, helping. We haven't chosen what we want to do. Whereas if the session can be, you can do this, 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 or this will help your session. I don't know. So I'll shut up now.